I think it's very important that tradition stays, and tradition has a huge part of all this. But there's also points where you look at tradition and go, is that still fit for purpose today? Is that still the right thing to do? Are we still doing and having the most impact we could be having?
Here's what just happened behind closed doors at one of Britain's most guarded estates. And what it reveals about the future of the monarchy is far more significant than any official announcement could ever be. A rising figure from the extended royal circle has been quietly removed from all family functions, all official events, all ceremonial roles permanently. And the story isn't actually about him at all. It's about what he exposed about how this institution truly operates when nobody's watching. The most crucial detail that nobody's emphasizing is that Princess Anne witnessed the entire sequence unfold. She observed it happening, and the subtle gesture she made afterward told everyone who needed to understand something profound about where the crown is heading. That single moment transforms this from ordinary family tension into something far more consequential, a fundamental shift in how this family will operate moving forward. Before diving deeper into the chain of events that led to this expulsion, if understanding the hidden mechanics of royal life interests you, subscribe to Crown Insights for regular analysis of the stories that never reach mainstream media. Let's unpack this. The individual in question isn't facing a temporary exile or a cooling off period. He isn't on some informal suspension with hopes of eventual reinstatement through careful behavior. This is a complete, irreversible banishment. And here's the crucial part. The decision wasn't made in a moment of anger or heated frustration. The order came weeks beforehand, deliberated in private, verified through observation, and then executed with absolute precision in an intimate setting with just 3 witnesses present. No advisors listening in, no handlers waiting outside the door, no staff who could later testify that emotions took control, only the key players themselves. This calculated restraint reveals far more than any emotional outburst would. This wasn't a snap judgment born from rage. This was methodical. This was deliberate. The situation extends far beyond one individual who couldn't maintain confidentiality. The person being removed had been aggressively pursuing access that was never going to be granted, making derisive comments about the future queen in private conversations, and distributing confidential family information that genuinely jeopardized the stability of the institution. The senior figure involved monitored all of this happening over an extended period without saying anything. Then came the conversation that absolutely shocked everyone who heard about it secondhand. The grandmother sat there without options. She couldn't rescue her relative, and what followed for her was substantially grimmer than simply missing future family gatherings. Let me rewind to provide essential context, because this specific situation didn't exist in isolation. The individual in question represents part of a broader pattern of systematic corrections. Just weeks earlier, another family member attempted to resurrect his position within the official ranks. This other relation had been campaigning intensely to reclaim titles he'd previously held, exhausting every single connection he had available, clawing for his way back into some form of acknowledged standing. The future king made his position unmistakable. He communicated directly that sufficient opportunities had already been extended and no additional chances remained available. Definitely not restoration of status for someone who demonstrated no genuine contrition. What struck observers was his composure during this entire exchange. He simply witnessed his father formally decline the request, permanently closing that particular door, refusing to even suggest that reconsideration might happen at some point in the distant future. One insider described that precise moment as the instant she truly understood who he was beneath the carefully constructed public persona. He could completely shut someone out with absolute finality, without hesitation, without remorse, without entertaining second thoughts. After that situation was handled, the attention shifted toward the other side of the family tree, and this is when the younger figure becomes central to the narrative. The Duchess had been subtly advocating for her grandson to secure an honorary position at a formal military ceremony, the kind of exclusive placement normally reserved exclusively for working members of the family. Her objective was providing him with something tangible, something with official recognition, something that would anchor him permanently inside the family structure in a way that nobody could later revoke. Behind the scenes, her son was driving this agenda forward with his own set of motivations. He had spent decades publicly grieving that he, as someone's son, received nothing of substance from his mother's elevated status, resentful that her position had never genuinely benefited him. He repeatedly communicated to his own son, partly with humor, but absolutely serious underneath, that they deserved far more consideration than they'd ever received from this family. And he communicated something that, looking back, clarifies the entire sequence of events that followed. He said, "We acquire what we need, however we can, with direct action if necessary." That was the operating philosophy. Don't wait around for an invitation. Demand what you want. He directly coached his son on approaching senior staff, circumventing the normal channels, rather than following the typical process like everyone else. That represented the initial misstep, and it was an enormous one. The instant this younger figure made that move, his activities came directly to the attention of the future king. No public reaction, no immediate consequences, simply an aide assigned to track his conduct closely from that point forward. The younger man, apparently unaware he was now under observation, immediately made circumstances substantially worse. Within weeks, he participated in a written interview with a publication focused on lifestyle and culture. He casually referenced a confidential dinner gathering within the castle walls, as though it were public knowledge. He described the future king as somewhat conventional and questioned whether he possessed the necessary qualities for monarchy. The father had actually encouraged the interview itself, suggesting that media visibility would help build his profile independently of his family name. He even prepared his son on potential responses beforehand. The future king's office flagged that interview within hours of publication. This time, the response wasn't handled quietly through intermediaries. Direct communication made clear that such behavior had consequences. The message was pointed. Inside access and outside commentary weren't compatible pursuits. The younger man apparently believed the incident had blown over. It didn't. What happened next might seem minor to outsiders, but it became the justification needed for what came later. During what should have been a routine social gathering, the younger figure was observed sharing restricted information about the property itself, architectural details, security procedures, staff names, with associates outside the family. His phone was confiscated during the event. Once the conversation was flagged, the exchange was documented, copies were made and circulated through the security apparatus. The security professionals didn't treat it as adolescent carelessness or an immature lapse in judgment. They categorized it as a genuine breach, a significant operational vulnerability, and it provided exactly what the future king needed. A documented reason he could reference publicly if anyone demanded justification for his next action. The genuine motivation was much starker and far more practical. The decision had already been finalized in private months earlier. This specific breach wasn't the cause of anything. It simply accelerated the timeline. Those close to him confirmed exactly that point, quietly, after the fact. What came next took place in a small, informal room, the kind where families typically have personal conversations. That setting made the moment heavier, not lighter. The environment felt intimate. It felt like something between family members. Only 3 individuals occupied that space: the future king, the grandmother, and the younger man. No advisors, no witnesses. The future king deliberately arranged it that way. He wanted no one present who could later characterize his behavior as anything less than completely controlled. His voice remained entirely level throughout. He conveyed in unmistakable terms that the younger man's access to this residence was concluded. His participation in family occasions was concluded. Any prospect of involvement in future royal endeavors was concluded, effective without delay. The language used was irreversible. Then came the moment that shifted this from institutional to deeply personal. He made direct eye contact and stated, "You don't get to disrespect the future queen and still call yourself part of this family." The younger man's voice wavered. He turned away from the future king, looking directly toward his grandmother, asking whether this determination originated from her as well. The future king intervened immediately, preventing a response. He stated plainly, "This choice was made for the institution's protection, not from individual preference. The grandmother remained silent. She offered no defense of her grandson. She didn't protect herself. The absence of words communicated more powerfully than any response could have. After the younger man departed that room for the final time, the grandmother spoke quietly. Words meant only for the future king. She expressed concern that he truly comprehended what had just transpired with a young person who never requested entry into this complicated environment. The future king didn't answer in words either. A single deliberate nod was his only response, a gesture conveying that he had already weighed the emotional cost and concluded it was an acceptable consequence for maintaining what required protecting. The grandmother absorbed this the same way she had absorbed countless other diminishments throughout the preceding decades, because she recognized a reality her grandson had never learned. Direct confrontation with the ascendant authority figure was a conflict she could not win, could not risk being perceived as attempting. Yet her silence wasn't only sadness. Underneath ran an equally powerful current. She had spent months quietly encouraging the exact pattern of conduct that just resulted in her own family members' complete rejection. A component of her had needed him to succeed because his inclusion validated her own, finally achieved permanence. And another component, somewhere deep, somewhere she would never voice, had harbored no disappointment upon hearing his observations about the future queen. That hidden truth would remain buried within her forever, locked away with everything else she had learned to keep private. The room cleared, the younger man had gone, and elsewhere in the building, someone had observed considerably more of this than others recognized. That person was the Princess Royal. She was present at the estate during that same visit, and she witnessed the younger man's departure alone. No attendants accompanied him outside. No vehicle waited for him. Just an ordinary taxi summoned from the gates, the kind any unknown visitor might request, as if he had never been considered a family member at all. The Princess Royal observed from her window. She didn't gesture, she didn't speak, she simply watched him leave. 2 days, subsequently, at a public family event, a comment in passing referenced family circumstances, nothing particularly detailed. The Princess Royal delivered a subtle nod, almost imperceptible, barely distinguishable as movement at all. However, long-term staff recognized it instantaneously because they had observed that identical gesture years before when a previous family connection had been similarly sidelined and never reintegrated. That expression signified approval. Everyone interpreting it grasped its significance. The Princess Royal had invested half a century observing this family endure crisis after crisis created by individuals who considered royal access a guaranteed inheritance rather than a privilege earned through commitment to duty. From her perspective, what transpired with the younger man wasn't cruelty. It represented the system functioning precisely as she had consistently believed it should operate. She maintained her own extensive history of making difficult sacrifices for this institution, decisions that required surrendering closeness with her own immediate family. She had never, not once, publicly voiced complaint or frustration. Witnessing the future king execute a comparable form of sacrifice, cutting the younger man away completely, she didn't perceive ruthlessness. She recognized someone finally internalizing what the role genuinely demands. That evening, the Princess Royal initiated contact with the future king directly. Her tone carried an unusual quality, gentler than typical, yet containing solid conviction. Underneath, she communicated that she recognized his judgment in the situation. She affirmed that he had completed what was necessary and had accomplished it without hesitation or wavering. The future king delivered minimal response. Words weren't required. For that stretch of the conversation, it transcended duty or procedure. It was two family members articulating something they rarely expressed. Those positioned within the household characterized it straightforwardly afterward. The Princess Royal lacked requirement for public declarations because she had demonstrated across decades precisely what survival within this institution demands. Success wasn't about receiving the greatest affection. It centered on ensuring nobody ever developed cause to question your position. The younger man provided them with cause. And the genuinely remarkable element, stepping back to perceive the complete situation, is that the future king isn't merely restructuring the environment for its own sake. He's establishing a precedent that will characterize his entire reign. Family access, for those positioned at the periphery, isn't something inherited simply because of ancestral connection. It's not something you can claim through demanding it because of who your ancestors married. It's something you earn. It's something you maintain through consistent conduct. And if you leverage it for personal visibility, if you demean those he's chosen as partners, if you transmit confidential information that jeopardizes the institution's stability, you will experience removal, not discreet sidelining, not gentle discouragement, but complete expulsion from which no re-entry exists. The younger man has become the illustration of this principle. And the fact that the Princess Royal, the person who dedicates herself most completely to the family, who never complains, who never falters, who never provides anyone reason to question her belonging, the fact that she observed the taxi depart and offered her nod of validation conveys precisely what you need to comprehend about this family's trajectory. The future king maintains her endorsement, he retains her respect, and he has just demonstrated to everyone, including his father, including the grandmother, including all the distant relatives potentially entertaining ideas about royal standing, that he will not hesitate to permanently sever anyone who jeopardizes what he's safeguarding. The younger man created the justification they required, and from that moment onward, one outcome was guaranteed. They would ensure nobody could threaten the stability of this family again.